What up?
Hey everybody, we are live. Welcome to Yup.
Hey,
How's it going?
Yup. Good.
Yeah, it's
Good.
good.
How's everybody's
what's
Wednesday?
happening?
First of the month.
It's the first of the month, so wake up, wake up, wake up.
Yes.
And I'm up.
Well, really quickly, welcome everybody to watching Yup Live, Young Urban Professionals. That is us. We are Yup. We are here to talk to you about what's going on in the world. I am your host, LaMay. I have Jasmine Laverne. Wave, girl. On the screen, we have Miss Gigi, Miss Jerica, and we have a special guest with us. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, Mr. Lawrence. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Oh, I appreciate it. My name is Lawrence Traylor. I'm from Oakland, California. I'm happy to be here. It's a lit show. I didn't know it was gonna be like this. I'm used to like going online and having these like sorry, dry conversations, but this is fun.
Yeah, you
I'm
already
from
know.
Oakland. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm from Oakland. Grew up pretty much here. Moved down to LA for about a decade, and now I'm back in the Bay.
Oh, I didn't
So
know that.
hopefully I
You and
got
I
something to
actually
honor.
went to high school together
We
back in the day.
did.
That was a
We
long
were
time.
just talking about it offline that I haven't seen you in like years, but we seem to like see each other once every like 3-4 years in the most random places.
And this is kind of random, huh?
Yeah, that's
And
it.
you're actually good friends with Mr. Christian.
Yep.
I am.
A little bit, something like that. I guess that what we could say.
Dope. I love it. Well, thank you for coming on. But really quickly, anybody have anything on their minds and on their hearts that they want to bring up?
I just want to reintroduce myself again.
Go ahead.
Some people that don't know, I'm Jerica Gigi, marriage and family therapist associate. And then I also co-own a security company in Dallas, Texas. So that's me.
Yes.
Okay.
And where are you, Jerica? Just so you can let people know, because I think this is actually really important too.
Yeah, so I live in Inglewood, California.
And you're currently in a amazing space.
Yes.
Awesome. And then Jasmine, anything? Where are you calling from?
No, I'm just excited. I'm actually working on the launch of an app called Just Us that will hopefully help deter police brutality across the nation. So once we are up and running, we'll definitely share with our viewers. But working really hard on that the past couple of days.
Awesome. Mr. Christian.
Welcome everyone thank you for joining us. We're excited about this. I'm teaching 4 classes right now, so I've been in the books, reading. I'm excited about today's topic, and I'm ready to indulge in some great conversation.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it, you guys. Gavin Newsom actually is on my screen as we speak. They're playing him talking about the state of the world in terms of California specifically, but it is affecting the world. The COVID pandemic. We are entering phase backwards, so to speak. So what are you guys' thoughts on us going into this backwards phase with COVID, and what do you think we can do moving forward?
Well, I guess I'll start. I was going to let everyone else have the stage today, but we hesitated a little bit. I'll just jump in like I always do.
Look at you being so nice to your fellow co-hosts today. Thank you.
I'm feeling generous. So I think it's absolutely crazy. I think it just shows human flaws. I think it shows the lack of discipline that we have as Americans. You know, when we first heard about this and everything was, ramping up in Italy, they were like, these are the worst cases. Italy, like, blah, 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 was terrible. But they have almost 0 cases now because they shut that shit down and didn't open until they figured out how to do it properly. Right. And as a community, as a collective Italian society, they all were on the same page. But because we have United States and we have these state laws and everyone wants to do their own thing, and then we barely have direction from the top, I think that one is a lot of selfishness going on. It's a lot of
bipartisanship.
It got politicized. It is just a hot mess. And I think that you can't roll it back. You can't say, okay, we're gonna open now. Oh no, we can't. We can close. We're gonna open again. We're gonna close. Like, you gotta be on one page and stick to it until you figure it out, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And again, reiterating the bipartisanship of it. I mean, number 45, unlike what I've seen from Italian leadership, is not putting his foot down, and he's basically going with the herd of the far right and not addressing.
He's gonna do what he has to do, right? But I think it's to me more so, if you're gonna put it on the governors, which he did in the beginning, then the governors need to protect their citizens and protect the people in their populations. But also, with that being said, the government needs to give them the resources that they need so that they can actually protect their citizens.
Mhm.
Absolutely. What do you think, Christian?
I'm on the same page, definitely, but I feel that because there are different philosophies amongst these governors, right? So those that are in Texas and Florida versus those that are in New York and California, there's always going to be, I don't want to say good versus evil, but it is going to be some friction. And so I think California, thank God we live there, has been at the forefront of trying. And, we tried to stick to the rules. We gave in. There were many protests that were out here in California, especially from our red areas, that wanted to get out and do all this stuff. And now we see that, like, literally 2,000 cases were happening in the last 4 days each. Right. So it's just something that we're doing wrong. And I think that there's another conversation that needs to be had surrounding this, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
I don't know. I guess I feel like, oh man, I'm a socialite. So I'm used to like being out, and the places that I've seen, it's half and half. So some places are practicing the social distancing, and then some places they're not. So I think I speak to this perspective. Like, I think if they want to be open, they can be, but I do think that the social distancing and taking the precautions to have like disposable cups and menus that you can throw away should be enforced. Because I like to eat at restaurants. So I feel like I don't want to be penalized because
other people are acting crazy.
The bar across the street is like, I'm just going to take your temperature and sit you right next to me. Like, no, that's not the place that I would, attend. So for me, I would like them to enforce it more so with the restaurants. And I also would like it to be fair. Orange County, they don't have a lot of the same restrictions. I think now they're cracking down a little bit more, but they didn't have the same restrictions as LA County because they were out there protesting. And because of that, they don't even, like, a lot of them weren't even wearing masks.
Yeah.
Well, there's an article that says that there hasn't really been any statistical evidence that shows that because of the protest, there's been a spike. It's more so been at bars and restaurants.
Correct.
That's true. But I look at it, I see it as just a sad situation. I agree with everybody's point. Like, it starts from the top down. Our federal government hasn't been doing what they're supposed to be doing. Number 45, as you so eloquently referred to him, I like that. Number 45, he's not doing his job. But like, even from the state or county level, you just have people that want to do different things. People have different risk profiles. If you're young, like myself, and I'm a socialite, I'm not in as much of a risk situation as an older person might be. And so getting somebody that's 22 that just graduated from college, or 18 that just graduated from high school, and being like, no, sit in the house, don't do anything, it's hard. So like, it's from the government standpoint, it's from individuals. I read plenty of articles that echo what Christian was just saying. It's really coming from bars and house parties. So, I'm on my Instagram every day. I see white people in Florida, partying like it's no tomorrow, and in the Ozarks, and I see black people in Atlanta at clubs, at hookah bars. I'm like, come on.
Right.
Not distancing at all.
Not distancing at all.
And then
it's hard to even distance in those places. And I think the thing about, and we're not scientists, we don't know the real facts, but I think the thing about being outside versus inside is that the collective air isn't just circulating. So people have been going to parks and doing picnics. People have been, I guess the beach there's closed.
Right.
That's people outside doing things.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I've been reading some articles and seeing some, people debunking the fact that, it's necessary to shut down beaches when, for the most part, it circulates in enclosed spaces in terms of, how the virus actually reaches people. So, I mean, I can get it. I can play devil's advocate for both sides, but I understand if someone who's, saying, well, how come you're letting Black Lives Matter go out and protest, but you're shutting down the beach? Like that I can understand if you look at it theoretically. But I think we all have to do our part. And I think it really falls at the hands of the administration. Like I said, if I'm watching the video of the Italian government, they're just straight up on screen yelling at people. Like, y'all need to chill. Y'all need to like, I'm sure flagrant language in their language.
Right. And I think it's also because America has this thing where, and it's mostly white America, where they're like, I don't want my government telling me what to do. But it's not a policy that is enforcing or enslaving you. It's a policy about public health. And I think when you separate health and you realize that public health is about the public, it's not about your individual self, you have to make sacrifices. And look, I'm just as much as a socialite. I am dying every day because I've been looking at the same four walls.
Right. Exactly.
Do I go out? Yes, I do my thing a little bit here and there, but I'm cautious about it. I don't go out every day and then I go out and I'm like, all right, let me sit my ass down for 2 weeks.
You ain't twerking in the club?
Not yet.
I don't know. It's interesting that like Sky Fisher is. Thank you so much for tuning in. He is blowing up our chat.
Sky Fisher has been with us since the beginning.
I know. We need to bring him on.
He says Governor Newsom needs to shut everything down, all the way down. Restaurants, park, protest, stores, close them all. And I think that this is a very interesting statement because a lot of people have been saying this, right? So it's like, okay, let's say, for instance, he does all that, then what? There's not a plan of action that goes into place after that. So
well, I mean, if we look at Europe, that's exactly what they did. They shut everything completely down, and now
I understand, but hold on, let me finish my thought process. So in the event that you shut everything down, okay, so what's next? You stop the curve so that people are getting sick in waves, but they're not testing everyone. So in other countries, they went door to door and they did tests for everyone. Now we can, it's free will, like you can go get a test, but their plan of action was to test everyone. So you'll know who has it and who doesn't have it. And my thing is, unless there is a plan put in place, we can look at other countries, but unless we're going to put a plan into place, then this whole shut everything down really, okay, then once it opens back up, we're into square one. If there's no,
I mean, that's what just happened, right? Like we've just seen it happen. But we do know that the cases were down when things were shut down. We know that cases are higher than they were when we first started. So it's something that needs to be done. You can't just have people out here saying, okay, I'm gonna risk it all and I'm gonna go do what I gotta do because maybe I'm not gonna die, but maybe someone, if she got it, it's okay. But if I got it, then it's terrible.
But that's the sad part about
such an individualistic society.
I think that's the sad part about our society is that most people, not most, too many people are like that. If at least 20% of the people out there are like, hey, I really don't care about this, my grandmother, my great grandmother, I'm just out here trying to have a good time, then how do you stop it? I do agree that if we would have had a unified front as a nation and everybody shut down at one point, we would be at a lot better position than we are now. You look at New York, because they were a hotbed, they shut down. And now California is as bad as New York was. And now New York is saying, don't come over here. And we're like, everybody's afraid to go to New York just a couple weeks ago. You got to quarantine if you go to New York. So that's the sad part. But I don't know the answer to having individuals, white, black, everybody, stay in the house, especially young people that want to party. Because I'm just going to be honest, like my feed, my friends, I'm not going to name certain people on this show right now, but have been, you know what I'm saying, outside kicking it, you know? So I don't know.
I have friends that have COVID.
Man.
You know what I mean? So, and one of my friends, you know, they were like, I'm on my 10th day of quarantine, but girl, what you doing for the 4th of July? And I was like, I think you need to rest. Like,
I need to rest and recover. And look, and my thing is also is that what I'm hearing is COVID is like a cold. Just because you get it doesn't mean you can't get it away. I mean, can't get it again. So you just gonna keep getting COVID and keep risking your life. Like it's not even like it's a like a little cough and a sneeze. It's actually your lungs are fucking up.
What do you think, Shariq?
I was going to ask you guys, and I'll answer it too before you guys give me your answers. How do we feel about universal testing? How do we feel about making it mandatory? Because I mean, I'm just, like I said, I like playing devil's advocate on both sides. We have our conspiracy theorists that are out there. And a lot of us like to be, conspiracy theorists. So people are saying, oh, I'm not letting them stick this in me because then they can track me and the government can come to my house and do this and do that. And okay, I understand that. I feel as though we need to be shut back down completely. I think that it's going to happen inevitably. But at the same time, a part of me is like, if there are those people who don't want to listen, then it's going to just be a situation of natural selection and survival of the fittest, so.
And I think that's what it's really going to be, right? Because as Jasmine was saying, even if we universally, I do think that that's an option. That's what I was kind of saying earlier. Unless you're going to test everyone, shutting us down, it's like we'll be sick in waves for the most part. But there is no cure. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you really do? And then and like you were saying, Shariq, if they do it, some people are getting false positives.
Exactly.
Right. That was a thing.
So, I don't really know. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a COVID tracker on your phone.
Yeah.
I haven't turned it on my phone yet, thank God.
I haven't turned it on. Are you guys turning it on?
No.
No.
I don't mind getting tested. See, I don't mind getting tested, but I'm not, and like Keon said, I'm not getting the vaccine. I don't trust vaccines. Some of the vaccines, like the mumps and the things you get when you're a kid, you got to go to school, fine. But these new vaccines, I don't feel like it's really conducive to the Black experience. However, what I did hear, and I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how true this is that without Black people getting the vaccine trials and they, making sure that it works on us because we have these pre-existing conditions, it makes me nervous that we're not going to get the best treatment of a vaccine, and it might not work as well, or it might not work efficiently with our bodies because we're not being included in the trials.
Well, I mean, some of us are. Now, I don't know how. I think this is a Business Insider. I think I was reading this article. I could be lying. Don't judge me. But I think it was Business Insider that was saying that some of the women that had actually tried out the trial became sterile.
Exactly.
Right. We know historically Black people and Black women specifically do end up faltering because they like to test and make us their dummies. And
right.
And let us not forget about when they injected us with syphilis. Okay. So, of course.
So then are we really conspiracy theorists then? Are we just.
No, it's facts. It's facts and it's history. And it's like, you're going to ignore history now?
Right. Definitely. So then that leads me into Karens. As we've been saying, we've had a lot of Karens making headwaves. A lot of them are angry because they are entering facilities without face masks, and they appease to whatever ideology that they appease to, and that Karens have gone crazy, and they're being captured.
Karen's gone wild.
Karen's gone wild. So what do you guys think about, the Karens and the Kevins of the world that are super anti-wearing face masks and are being irate?
I mean, it speaks to their patriotism and, their right to do whatever they want to do. This has been historically proven. And it's funny to me. It's funny to me. They're going on these rants, throwing the food out the carts, yelling like, you look stupid.
Getting beat up.
Getting beat up.
We are not our grannies. Sorry to say
Not at
that.
all.
But no, and then, it's just, to me, it's ridiculous. But at the same time, I feel as though, wearing seatbelt belts are a law, right?
Mhm.
So I'm curious as to when seatbelts became a law, if it was the same protest against wearing seatbelts in your car. And, it's proven that seatbelts, can save your life and can save the lives of others.
Give it a ticket. Give it a price that if you don't wear a mask.
And then they are doing that in some places. And that's why these Karens and Kevins are going crazy. So speaking of which, Jasmine, you want to introduce this clip of a Karen and Kevin couple?
Well, this one is a little bit interesting. I don't think it's necessarily with COVID. It's more so with protecting their homes and protesting. And I think what's interesting about it is that when LA was protesting, they said, get out of like Inglewood and Leimert Park and Crenshaw and go up to Beverly Hills, and let's protest in Beverly Hills. And it looks like this is kind of the same thing that was happening. The guy who has this rifle here,
Wow.
he says that it's a gated community, and the actual mayor's house that they were supposed to go to isn't even in his neighborhood. So he was so frightened, so scared. These two people are lawyers,
Wow.
protecting their homes. So I'll let it play. I don't know if you can hear the sound. Oh, I just know good sound.
Wow.
But basically, what I find interesting here is that they had to protect their home like that. Like,
we're got a pistol? That's a mini
pistol. Both of them. Were they so afraid in their nice mansion that these people were gonna mess up their homes? Like, what would you do? Like, are you protecting your home like this? Would you?
Wow.
Absolutely.
I think
because it's all with all the civil unrest and all the kind of craziness that's happening, I kind of get it. But I think also, and I think the media use this as kind of fuel to the fire.
Yes, the media is definitely sensationalizing Karen at the moment. I think it's become more, apparent with Black Twitter, and now we actually have Instagram pages dedicated to Karens and Kevins Gone Wild. I follow one of them. I'm not gonna lie, it gives me my life every single day. But is this helping? Is this helping us exposing Karen and Kevins the way that we are? Are we just sensationalizing it, or is this actually helping our cause as Black progressives?
I mean, here's the thing. People were outraged by that video, but I'm like, I wouldn't want you on my mansion either.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I had an issue with is that her finger was on the trigger. And then one wrong, because we found that some of them have a higher level of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So one wrong turn, I just don't want you to be, put your finger on the trigger. But I don't think it's anything. They weren't supposed to be there. That's private property. They weren't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
I think the underlying issue is that we all know by living and being Black that if you were Black, you would have been treated differently in that situation. Like, legally, is it right for you to protect your property? Absolutely. Like, if anybody was about to break into your house, you would want to like stand outside with a gun. But we know that that was a Black couple. The police would have been there in 2.5 seconds. They would have been thrown on the ground. It would have been an escalated situation. So it just, to me, speaks to the inequality, and it doubles down on this idea that Karens and Kens or Kevins or whatever you want to call them still get this level of white superiority and white privilege. And even if you're not sitting out here calling somebody the N-word, even if you're not going out of your way to subjugate Black people, when you're exercising your privilege in a way that you know isn't fair, then you're doing the same thing. So I'm mad at the police station for not being there and hyper policing these communities like they do Black communities. I just want consistency. I want rules and laws that apply to everybody. And in that video, I saw it. It didn't apply to them.
Right.
And even to your point, even the people who were protesting on the Capitol in Michigan with the guns, if those were Black Panthers, we see what happened to them.
Exactly.
So keep that same energy across the board. And Denise put Black progressive. So when we say keep that same energy across the board, I think we can switch to our next topic if no one else has anything to say.
Well, I think this actually does segue into our next topic because, as we know, we discussed the Democratic police reform bill last week and the Republican one that got shut down. So congratulations to the Democrats for passing their bill through phase one. We know it ain't over. It's going to take a little while. But yeah, it's a step in the right direction. They definitely put their best foot forward. So shout out to, the Democrats for doing that. It was much better as we broke down the two different bills last week. The Democratic reform bill compared to the GOP is a lot more progressive, but now I'm just hopeful that they can get it passed. Lawrence, Christian, what do you guys think about the Democrats being able to get this reform bill passed officially?
I'll tackle it. I think that is possible for sure. I feel like Republicans, this police reform, like you're saying, a lot of it's being sensationalized in a way as well. So people are becoming more attracted to it through the awareness and notoriety of it. And so I think Republicans actually are going to buy into it. And I think that that's where we're headed. Of course, there's going to be some friction, but I feel like the nonpartisan should probably be able to step in with this. Potentially, that's my prayer.
I don't know.
I agree with you. I think 3 Republicans agreed too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's about time. Like we finally get a piece of legislation that I think can do some good. I think it will pass through, like you said. Having some Republicans, it's a perfect storm in a sense, right? Because everybody was saying, oh, what are you looting for? What are you rioting for? This is what people were out there fighting for. Sometimes you don't need to have a perfect plan in order to enact change. And so now, because of so many cities have burned, because there's so much notoriety and publicity, there's no way in hell that 3 months ago a bill like this would have even made it past the floor or made it onto the floor. So I really congratulate everybody out there doing the hard work of standing up, saying no, protesting, and I think it'll pass. Like it's just that we're finally here, not by a large margin. It's still gonna be tough, but I think because a lot of Republicans too have to position themselves from a political standpoint of if Trump does lose, which he's looking like he will, now you're sitting out here on an island without party support, and you want to get reelected. So if you go against something that's so obvious and clearly in the interest of all the people right now, what does that say about you?
Exactly. Have you guys been following the defund the police stuff that's been going on?
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like similar to like that language. I think that's tackling and puzzling in with it. I think LA County is defunding, reorganizing the money. LA City Council is reorganizing the money. And even the LA school districts are reorganizing the money and taking police officers out of it. Like you said, 3 months would have been unheard of. 3 years ago, it definitely wouldn't have happened. So,
Yeah.
Whether it's passed or not, I was just going to say that it's good that we're having the conversation. And if nothing else, during these last, I don't even know how many days we've been in this quarantine period, there are bills that have been placed. There are more conversations about what these Karens are doing, you know what I mean? Even if it is sensationalizing it, it's like you're able to see what your counterparts are doing. So you're able to have more conversations about what white privilege is. You're able to have more conversations about advocacy, racial injustice. You're able to have more conversations about why this bill is so important and give documentation that you weren't able to do before.
Yeah.
So whether it passes or not, at least it's opening the door to conversation. And I think once you start conversation, that's when you can start to put in action for change.
Right. So I was actually watching TMZ coincidentally today. They've been having a lot of good information, and they were interviewing LA Councilman Herb Wilson, who says that the proposal to defund the police and replacing officers with non-armed trained professionals for nonviolent crimes is the way to go. So according to him, what that would look like is, as opposed to if you have somebody having a mental health case, instead of calling the police, we would call these specific designated professionals that are unarmed to come out and de-escalate the situation and maybe, talk them down or whatever their practices are, because they're actually trained in that field. And then, Jerica, I wanted to ask you, because, that is your field. Do you think that that's something that's plausible? Should it be a whole separate aspect of the police force, or should it just be its own thing? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what I don't know if you guys remember last show. That's exactly what I said. I said, and then for those of you tuning in, I said some of the people that have the police call to them are suffering from mental illnesses. So if we had a mental health professional or even someone that was trained in de-escalation on each call to the police department, I think that will definitely, one, provide psychoeducation on spot because you're seeing how I'm responding to the situation. And then two, hopefully the idea is that there'll be a lot less killings.
Yeah.
And people being brutalized.
Right.
And I use the example last because if you beat down Johnny because he's not listening to you, but Johnny has a mental illness, of course he's not going to listen because he's not all the way there.
I think we also want to be delicate with that word mental health. I think we use that a lot. I was having a conversation with this social worker, and he was talking about how, what is the underlying factors to some folks' mental health issues. And I think that stems back to, their environment, their childhood trauma, etc. And so it's going back into like finding out how to get the resources to make people not be able to live through that trauma to go into that mental health. So it's kind of like I don't want to say it's a domino effect, but it's more like a foundational piece that we have to look at. I do believe that mental health is strong and it's relevant. We can't negate that. But I do think that there's a way that we can also tackle mental health and stop labeling our Black men and Black women that they have mental health issues. And that's just.
But even taking a step back from that, Christian, like we've been socialized in this country to believe that cops with guns everywhere is just the normal right thing to do. It's utterly ridiculous. When you look at other countries, police officers don't have the type of ammunition and the shotguns and all that stuff. And I almost cried yesterday. They don't. When I thought of I'm from the Bay Area, many people on here are. I saw the news that they were going to do away with BART police. And I almost cried because it's so personal to me.
BART, it's like our subway system.
Yeah, it's our subway system.
That's what Fruitvale Station.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I grew up in Oakland. I knew Trayvon Martin personally. And to see that in 2008, that happened, and to come to 2020, and you're just now coming up with the idea like, oh shit, maybe we don't need cops with guns on the BART. Like that's such common sense. It's like we should have been here decades. We never needed cops with guns on the BART. Like you don't need them on the bus. You don't need them in schools. It's like if you have serious issues, I'm not saying do away with every police, but it's important that people understand that defunding the police means get rid of all these extra cops that we never needed that have police that are out here killing people.
Go ahead, Christian.
So that's what Sky is asking. And there's a couple of comments in regards to, so then we must have that conversation on black crime, right? So at the BART station, the Black on Black people were probably acting up and doing a lot of stuff. This is what some arguments would be, right? Even in the schools, it's usually Black on Black stuff, Black on Black crime. So I know it's locality that's involved into it, but then someone also said, what about white on white crime? I mean, you have to have those conversations to where policing involved.
Regardless of white on white or black on black,
people are going to kill the people that they know, right?
Exactly.
And it becomes white on black crime when it's a hate situation. Most of the times, it becomes Latino on black when they know each other, and no offense, but it might be gang violence. It becomes black on black when it's mostly gang violence or domestic violence or something along those lines. White people, same thing. It's people killing people who they know. And people most likely know people of the same race. So it really bothers me when people put black on white crime.
Yeah, I mean, our comments are going in right now.
Go ahead, Sherry. What were you about to say?
No, I'm just saying, I'm looking at the comments and people are going back and forth about, black on black crime. And somebody just said there's no such thing as black on black crime. It's a hot button issue. And I think it's something I see. Like I said, I like to play devil's advocate just so that I can have a bipartisan perspective. And then just even from my own sanctity, I do want to bring up this comment, though, which I think is important because we don't really talk about it too much in terms of policing in our schools. Collins says public schools used to have counselors. there until budgets were cut in the 70s and 80s and were replaced by policing in the schools. I did hear that LA was also speaking about getting police officers off of campuses. I will say the only thing that concerns me about that is when little Bobby and Willie or whoever, not you, Lawrence, I know you go by Bobby. when little Kevin comes to school with a gun again and starts shooting up the place. There are some concerns about that, but then that goes into a whole deeper issue with gun rights and everything else. So what do you guys think about policing on campuses and schools?
I don't think I went to school my whole life and didn't have a gun and didn't have police in my schools. Most of my schools were all Black.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very unnecessary. I think counselors should be there. I think it should be some kind of responsibility where you're not supposed to bring a gun to school. Like, just like you're not supposed to bring a gun to church. Like, I think you have to have some respect for the institution.
Yeah.
I think that it goes back to the foundation. So if there were more counselors in the school systems and not just Black school systems, because I keep hearing Black this, Black that, and yes, we're Black, but this is not just a Black issue. Like, mental health is all races, all colors. And so in the event that counselors were more present and had more access to children and kind of some of the things that they're facing, then maybe Bobby, or whatever you want to call the child at the moment, wouldn't bring the gun to school because he had someone to talk him off the edge. Maybe he had an ally. Maybe he had someone to talk to. Growing up in school, we talked to our counselors all the time. Mm-hmm. Yes, for their schedules, for our schedules, but also because of, we might have had things that were going on. And I grew up in a mixed neighborhood. Yeah. Now neighborhoods like Compton and Watts, they have mental health issues. So we're in the school systems. And we have partnerships with the school systems. Yeah. And so we're slowly getting back to that because of the generational trauma. But I do think that maybe if we started out younger and retrained some of our individual mindsets at a younger age, then as adults we'll be able to deal with conflict and just overall life stressors a little bit better.
Yeah. And I think it goes back again to what schools have the police in them. It's not Montgomery County, Maryland. It's not Beverly Hills. It's not Sherman Oaks. It's the Black people schools. So I think, just like we had that conversation before, if a police is patrolling a Black neighborhood, that's not doing anything but a scare tactic and distrust of the police because you're on me and you're micromanaging me versus protecting me and making me feel safe.
Yeah,
we have police in our school systems too, and I grew up in a white neighborhood, so that's not true. That's not all the time true. Like, Black cops are not just in Black schools. It just depends on.
Well, what I'll say is that to me it comes off as like no one here is doing it, but the mass media use these types of logical fallacies or like red herrings to like distract you from what the point is, right? So if we're talking about policing and how it's killing Black people disproportionately in America, we all start there. Then they want to switch the conversation to, well, what about Black on Black crime? Well, what about racial crime? We're not talking about that. What we were talking about is the fact that police officers in America that are not called, you're not helping if you're not being called. Other people are calling the police on us and coming into our communities and killing us. So when we say we want to defund the police, coming here with this hero complex of, oh, well, what if this happens to you? Well, if it does happen, we'll call you. But we're not. We don't need you. We're saying that we're safer off in our own communities without you because you're causing more harm. So how dare anybody else come in and be like, well, you're going to need us one day when Leroy down the street comes and beats you up. I'm good with Leroy. I'll handle that.
Right.
Like, I still don't need the police help. I got Leroy, right? And then when we talk about it in schools, they try to switch the conversation again. It's like, oh yeah, well, bad stuff happens in schools, in these Black schools. People sell drugs and you never know stuff. How many African American kids have you seen go shoot up a school?
Exactly.
This is not, and I'm not saying it's a race problem, but it's also a class issue of people that have access to these different weapons, to these fully automatic rifles that are, and I understand it's mental health issues as well, but let's not make this seem like it's a everybody issue here. When we're talking about school shootings and terrorism and what we do in America, we're talking about a very select subgroup of America. Now, however you want to deal with that, deal with that. But don't come to me and tell me that my kids, I don't have any yet, but when I do, my kids need a police officer in the school to protect them. No, how about this? We deal with the issue and the students that are doing stuff like that, and not bring a grenade and put police officers in every school you feel like to deal with one little issue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
replace it with counselors.
Counselors.
You and I went to Berkeley High. Go ahead.
I think it starts with the teachers as well. I think that, you know, I don't know if you guys feel, but shouldn't your teachers kind of play the mentoring role as well as a counselor role in a way? I know that's not what their degree is in, but it also stems like more. If we really want to be technical, a lot of those Karens are in the school system. They keep calling.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
In the Karens. I mean, I got in trouble a few times in high school where it was a Karen that was calling because, you know, I didn't know how to act in a certain way. And now with our school to prison pipeline, people, like you're saying, Lawrence, is that this black and brown issue is very relevant in our school system because now we have 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds that are being arrested. I mean, imagine at 9 years old, you having handcuffs. Come on. That's no, we don't need police for that. There's other ways of handling it.
Yeah, somebody just said, Mr. Keon said, teachers already have enough on their plate. Why add more? And I was actually going to mention, that's a great point. Ideally, that would be amazing if we can lean on our teachers more. But a lot of in these communities where they're talking about having this extra policing, they're already overstaffed. I mean, they're understaffed. There's 30 and 40 kids.
Okay,
yeah, exactly. And they're stressed out. They don't have enough time. I was going to say, me and Lawrence went to Berkeley High. How many students were at our school, Lawrence? You know, Berkeley High, my graduating class was 1,000. You know? So there's just we were fortunate enough. Yeah, we had a police station from our school. What'd you say? No, like, Berkeley High is huge.
Wow. Yeah. But we got kids from so many different communities.
Yeah, we had so many different communities compiled into one, but the police station was literally across the street from the school. But I will say that Berkeley is so liberal and so progressive that I can't recall there ever being an issue where we had to have a strong police presence on our campus, and we had open campus. We were able to leave campus, go eat wherever we wanted in downtown Berkeley. Yes, child.
Yeah.
I'm so liberal up here in California, honey. We ain't supposed to be.
Did you ever have any issues at Berkeley High Police?
I never had any issues with police like that, like at all. And like I said, I'll agree, they were extremely liberal. They let us kind of like go and do our own thing. But it shows that we don't need, in our community specifically, that hyper police force. And all other statistics, any other time they talk about gun use or gun violence, they always show the statistic that shows if you have more guns, it begets more violence. Gun owners, states that have more liberal gun laws have more shootings. So they don't put that same knowledge and that logic with schools, though. So if you have more guns, people are going to feel the need to bring them, use them in the whole nine. It's like when we didn't have guns in schools, we were perfectly fine.
Yeah, I totally agree. So then going back to the Democrat bill, the Democratic Police Reform Bill, we know that Miss Karen Bass, who is the head of it, not that Karen, a different Karen. Karen Bass was one of the leaders of that. And then we also know that she is being looked at as a potential vice president to Mr. Joe Biden, as well as a host of other African-American females. So then we were, begging the question, is it overkill? Are we using Black women tokenism when it comes to politics? Christian, what are your thoughts?
First and foremost, I am Team Karen Bass all the way. All the way. She's a strong advocate for foster youth. So I was a foster youth. I advocate for foster youth. So I'm going to support her wherever she goes. I do think that the Democrats are playing into it. Me and my cousin have this argument all the time about how the Democrats play into the race issue. And so, of course, there is the idea of tokenism. And we have to look at what tokenism is. And tokenism started in the workforce with women and men, right? And so now we're looking at it in regards to race component. in politics. I will say that it does exist, and I'm gonna wait till y'all say something about it before I try to go more into it. And yeah.
Jasmine, Jerica?
So I'm two-sided about it. Yes, I think it's tokenism, and you're just throwing somebody black on the bill, a black woman, because it looks good, right? It's all about the optics. However, I do hope that if it's Stacey Abrams, I'm not really stoked about Kamala, or if it's Kamala, or if it's Karen Bass, it would be, I think it's two ways. I think Karen is going to play along to get along. I think everyone says she's likable. Everyone says she works well with the Republicans. Great. I think, but that's kind of the Obama Biden ticket, right? That's what that gives me. I think if we have Stacey Abrams, I think she's more outspoken. She's going to be more aggressive.
That's my girl.
So it's like, is that going to work for us? So I think it's kind of a catch-22, because I do think it's going to be the same thing that happened with Obama, where we're going to put a lot of pressure on this black woman to be everything and more. And then when she falls short, we're going to say, oh, she wasn't even a good vice president. Oh, she wasn't even for black people. So I'm nervous about that.
Jerica, I want to know.
I have a lot of feelings, but I'm gonna save my comments because I'm thinking. But they are. You don't have to put this on the screen.
Our comments right now. I know they're going in.
For those of you who cannot see, somebody said Condoleezza Rice should be vice president. Somebody else was like, Condoleezza Rice is a clone. I said, so
I don't get all the comments.
You guys gotta make sure that you to like type in comments. But because they're hilarious. But anyways, I'm saving my thoughts.
Well, okay, so I'll say my thoughts. I think it's great that they're wanting to be progressive. I don't particularly subscribe to using black women as the token to getting the ticket across. I don't know if it's gonna make or break Biden. I think he's kind of trying to shoot his shot, because we're looking at him crazy right now because he said some very questionable things and he has a questionable past. And he would really need to have somebody with a squeaky clean image. I know that some people have issues with Karen Bass. I don't know if you've heard about it, Christian, with her comments about certain political figures in other countries who are
about saying he's the commander in chief in Spain.
Yeah. So people are really going to go in on her.
How long ago was that?
And it's petty.
Exactly. They're going to find something everywhere, any chance they can.
Yeah.
My is tokenism. Does tokenism come with a bad or a negative vibe towards it, or a label surrounding it?
They're going to look at it as affirmative action. People are going to look at it in the same light.
Versus representation. How can we decipher the two?
I love that you open that door, because I have very, very, very strong views on this, right? So when I think it's extremely akin or similar to affirmative action. We all look at within our community, right? Certain people, and I hate the word coon because I feel like that's the most disrespectful term to any black person, because we're all black, right? But we look at people like Clarence Thomas. We look at people like Clarence Thomas, and we're like, what are you doing on the Supreme Court? You're not doing what you. And his main argument is that I'm against tokenism. I'm against affirmative action because I don't want people to look down upon me. Whatever. My thing is this: tokenism, that like the root of the word, the original concept came from putting somebody of color in a position, or a woman in color in a position, and not giving them any power. If you're telling me that you're going to put a black woman as vice president of the United States of America, do you know how many presidents were formerly vice presidents? So you're putting them in a position to be president of the United States. I don't care. Like, put them in that position. I'm not for all of this. Oh, but it looks bad. I care what people think. If you're going to put a black woman in a position of power and give her the platform to potentially be president, do it, period. Like, it's conversation non-starter. And I'm in the same position. All of us, like, academically, I've always been on that side of the road that's like, hey, if you want to say I'm the affirmative action hire, whatever, I'm the affirmative action hire at the top school getting a big paycheck. So, like, who cares about that stuff, right? Like, we need to, as a community, in my opinion, is let all of that, who cares what everybody's talking about, and put ourselves in positions where we can help our future generations. And I'm in the same position. all of us, like academically,
Oh, what just happened? Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, no,
I agree with you, Lawrence.
Go ahead, Erica.
And so that's why I was trying to gather my thoughts, because I completely agree with that. I'm like, some people are going to be for Senator Harris. Some people are going to be from Abrams. But the reality of it is, a Black woman as VP, you win in either way, to me. Now, there's stances. You know, what you say?
Ian said that affirmative action money still spent.
It still spins, okay?
It's been good. It's been good.
Either way, I feel like it's a win-win. You know what I mean? Like, they both have different viewpoints, and both of them have done things that I don't agree with. However,
talking about Kamala and
Condoleezza, we can't say nothing about Karen.
no. But the statement, right? Like, you can say that the statement.
Okay.
Either way it goes, no one's perfect. There could be things that you don't like about either one of them.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, I'm happy that is, that's an option.
I mean, but okay, let's look at this. Let's go back to 2008, right? Or even to 2008, and then 4 years later, 2012. Everybody voted for Obama. A lot of people voted for Obama, didn't know what he stood for, didn't know his policies, and he won the presidency. And then there are some people who are now coming out, Black people. They're not necessarily conservative, saying that Obama really didn't do anything for us. I just voted for him because he's Black. So what do we say about that? And how do we really know that we're voting for the right person? Are we just voting because Biden is, pulling one on us and grabbing a Black lady? And he's being so out about it. Like, he's not even trying to hide it. Like, he's like, yes, I'm looking at Kamala Harris. I'm looking at Stacey Abrams. I'm looking at Karen Bass. Like, he's not trying to hide it at all.
That because there's pressure on them to where it's a necessity and where it's a requirement, right, for them to actually include a Black woman's voice. Why wouldn't it be a Black man? I mean, we had Obama, why couldn't it be somebody else or a Latino or what? I think because they know that the Black vote is so prominent, it's so necessary. It is going to put people's in office, because Black is beautiful, and everyone's going to follow what we do and what we say and wherever we go. So I think that that's something that we also need to look at for sure. There was something else I want to talk about, but dang it slipped my mind.
I'll chime in. So I think Denise said something important. She said we need the South. Black people nationally have pushed for Black women, particularly for the South. And I think that is a lot of the conversation and even in music, I hear a lot of conversation about we forget the South. And I think that a lot of the policies, the liberals in the North, these are the policies that we need and we fight for, but we forget our Southern brothers and sisters who are still dealing with the remnants of Jim Crow, still dealing with a lot of the racism and the segregation. They might be fine with it, but if we're talking about the United States, if we're talking about what the future of America looks like, I think we have to tackle that that Jim Crow South Confederacy. And then also, I wanted to talk about the president is elected by a middle-class white man. We need to have a ticket that appeals to everyone, not just Black people. And then it was something else that I saw. But anyways,
we got to get Sky on the show.
Right, we got to get Sky. Sky be coming through. And I get that. We do need to appeal to people that are not just Black. However, I think it's twofold for me.
I'm looking at Lawrence's face, and I want to hear.
Because I'm a woman and because I'm Black, I have these two dynamic viewpoints.
But then I want to ask the question: Why isn't Wang, somebody that he's looking at, Andrew Wang, even though they're technically, utilizing some of his policies that he was discussing in terms of universal.
I'm just gonna come out and say it. I don't understand how. I don't want this to come into turn into a gender battle. But I don't understand how 3 Black women can have any questions, reservations at all about a Black woman vice president. You're saying it's two sides. I'm like, what's the other side?
No, 100%. I just don't want her thrown on just to say.
I said you would either way. So I don't know what. Don't be trying to group me now.
I personally, I have to do more research. I'm a researcher first, right? So I have to do more research on Karen Bass. I got into Stacey Abrams when she was going for governor of Georgia. I was really rooting for her, and I really liked what she had to say. She was she hit all the points that I think were important to me, and I liked her delivery. I think for me, delivery is key. You can have great policies and you can, pander, whatever it is. But I think how you say things and how you get people to understand your policies and where you're coming from is very important. And to me, she's the badass. I do like Kamala Harris, but I understand the skeletons in her closet, and I don't want that to deter, however which way the vote swings. So like I said, I want it to be because of them naturally being a good candidate. They're going to be overshadowed regardless because they're not going for presidency. But they are going to be in a position to potentially become president one day.
I think it's super hard to overshadow a Black woman, but that's just my personal opinion. So my thing is, regardless of, it's kind of, I'm going to speak to the point that someone said earlier is like, oh, I think that was you, Sharik, that was like, well, President Obama didn't do anything for the Black people. Okay, that's fine. We still had a Black man in the presidency. Like,
but is that enough?
Yeah, exactly. We're talking politics and policy that's going to affect us. We're not talking about who is our king or who is our just figurehead. While I say that, I do want either Karen Bass, because also she's Congressional Black Caucus. She led this reform bill for the police. She everyone likes her. She has no issues. But I also like Stacey Abrams because of her delivery. I got her on my wall. But
y'all too educated, man.
He said educated.
I'm not voting.
I'll tell you what.
Like
y'all sitting here.
What?
Oh, go ahead. Y'all sitting here like breaking down whole arguments and everything about how she needs to be a great candidate and have all these policies. Do you know 90% of the people in this country that voted for Trump because he said he was going to build a wall? Like, the people out here, like, you don't have to be that complex. Why is it that we as a community put so much on our candidates and need them to be so elegant and perfect in every aspect? Like, forget it. Just one thing is good enough for everyone else to vote for their own candidate. And I'm trying to be politically correct when I say it, right? And even when people are like, oh, Obama didn't do enough. He did more for you than Trump did. He did more than Bush did. He did more than everyone. So why are we critiquing? I'm like, listen, put somebody in office that is at least gone through somewhat similar experiences, at least is somewhat invested in the same things that I'm invested in. Regardless of if Obama did the most for us or not, he still had to deal with the potential of getting shot outside of his house the same way I do. And when I think of a Black female as a vice president, I'm like, listen, I don't care about, to be honest with you, I don't care about, I'm a political scientist and a lawyer and all that. I don't care about none of that, man. Just put her in.
I'm just like you understand, fail up all the time. People aren't qualified to be CEO. They still CEO. People aren't qualified to be in any C-suite, yet they fail up. So why don't we give ourselves the grace to fail up? Because the white man doesn't. That's why.
Right. I'm just saying. Go ahead.
I just feel like at the end of the day, and I say this every single week, but I'm gonna say it again. If I get locked up tomorrow, the president is not going to come down from the White House and get me out of jail. He's just not. Mm-hmm. He's not. So it's all this pressure put on presidential elections, and I get it. I'm going to vote. Don't get me wrong, but the local elections I feel like are a lot more important. Visually, I think people were empowered when they saw a Black man as president. Visually, if there's a Black woman as VP, people are empowered by that because it signifies change. Mm-hmm. So
little Black girls do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. She said we need little Black girls to see that too.
We need little Black girls. We need little Black boys to know that they can do something besides play sports, twerk, and be singers.
I will say this though, and before we close out, because I've just been doing a lot of research and watching even Black Republicans speaking on Obama and how it affected them. A lot of people actually went conservative after Obama. And the reason why, Lawrence, why I have my mindset of wanting to research and wanting to make sure we have a good person. If we're gonna have somebody in there, they better be good. Is because there's always going to be a teeter-totter between the Republicans, the GOP, and we are going through what we're going through right now. I will say because a lot of people had issues with Obama. Mm-hmm. The reason why Trump, I believe, was able to be elected was because so many people were angry about Obama. So many people were angry about Hillary Clinton. And so that's why it's important for whoever this person is to be someone who, unfortunately has to be squeaky clean, has to appeal to both sides. That way we don't have this extreme shifts every time we get a new president that comes into the building.
Do you think that it's too extreme if she comes in or he comes in with a Black agenda as the VP, or should that be a requirement?
It should be a requirement.
Right? So you need to make sure that they're a part of the Black agenda in regards.
We also forget Tammy Duckworth. She's also in conversation. She's Asian. And then what's the other girl's name? Michelle Gershom. She's Latina. She's in the conversation too. Mm-hmm. But what's unfortunate, they're women. I think they're capable and qualified. But the conversation is a burden on Black women because we're asking them to save the day as usual.
Yeah. I just want to read this last comment before we close. This is good. Ashley says, but that squeaky clean requirement just feeds into the idea of Black exception. Why can't we just be flaws and all? But can you afford to be flawed, to have certain flaws when you're running the free world? That's the question. But again,
look at Trump. Why can't he have all the flaws? He can grab people by the collar. He can be wrong in every single way.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I totally agree. But we're gonna table this and wrap up this episode. Does anybody have any last thoughts before we head out?
I think we should go one by one and have our last thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, Jerica, would you like to start?
Oh, sure, I'll start. I would just say that I don't even know. I have so many thoughts. If I have one last thing, I would say to use common sense. The media will portray things in certain ways, but do your research, use common sense. Don't believe everything that you see online because sometimes the agenda and the message is inaccurate. Mm-hmm. And to follow me on Instagram, hey, Miss Gillum. That's it.
Awesome. We'll save Lawrence for last. Christian, did you have anything?
Always have something. Two things is that I'm working on a petition in the Lancaster, Antelope Valley area. Please go visit sos10.org, a group of community organizers, teachers, educators, all type of community business people. We've all been working on trying to bring stuff to the Antelope Valley, and we've been working on a petition. Please go sign in, everyone, please, if you can. And then lastly is keep applying pressure. I know the momentum seems like it's going down. The protests are going down. Of course, COVID is going up. But if you can, we have to think of new, innovative ways of making sure that our people are well informed of what's happening, of what's going on. And we got to keep fighting back in regards to advocacy for resources for every community that we live in. So peace, and I'll see y'all next weekend for sure.
Thank you.
I was like, where are we going next week?
I need to stay home. I'm gonna stay home this weekend.
I didn't prepare anything or think about anything, so I'm just gonna plug my website, lovejazzmedia.com. Get your brand consultations, your media consultations, or your press kit.
Absolutely. And then for me, I would just say, I play devil's advocate for a reason because I want us to have these tough conversations and bring up these points because there are other people with different perspectives all over that we sometimes, especially us in California and in the liberal areas, we tend to not think about. So I'm always about doing research. On top of that, I did drop my new t-shirt. I'm actually wearing it right now. Create Reform Tea, and I am going to be donating proceeds to the ACLU, which is an amazing organization that's geared towards creating reform. So make sure you head over to lamayday.com in order to cop that. It'd be very, very helpful to the cause for us to really get into these conversations and create legislative change. And if you don't know what 1863 and 1968 are, then you need to go do your research. And then Lawrence, our special guest, anything from you?
I just want to say, just thank you for having me. This was a really fun time. Everybody here was great, so intelligent, bright, different views. Stay Black, stay happy, stay loving, stay positive. Breonna Taylor's killers are still going free. So, make the phone calls, do what you can there. But yeah, I'm going to shout out, I'm going to post my own Instagram, Bobby_boy_Bob. I should have put it in my name.
It's on the flyer. Okay. We'll put it.
Okay.
We'll put it in the comments. But definitely, right, thank you so much, Lawrence, and then thank you to everyone who's commenting. Our comments were so lit today.
We're gonna talk about Mayday Women. I said that earlier today. We need to talk about monogamy and polygamy.
Polygamy, yeah.
I was just talking about that earlier today.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much, and then until next time,
Yup.
Yup.